Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk. Today I'm going to talk about joy as a form of resistance. This week was a little difficult for me, but this message is outside of time and space in terms of just thinking about when we feel overwhelmed in society and in the system that we live in. I've been trying to maintain my emotional balance this week, especially with my students, because we are discussing some really difficult issues in class. And I want to be sure that I'm bringing a hopeful message to everyone. And I didn't really realize how weighed down I was until about midweek, and I started to reflect, right, what was going on. And we're reading Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, and in one of his passages, he discusses how the colonizer seeks to have the body of the colonized tensed at all times, ready to explode at any moment, because the colonized is forced to focus on solely surviving, right? Instead of living, they're focused on survival at all times. And so they live tensed and insecure and kind of ready to burst at any given moment. In this space, we as global citizens today live in similar circumstances where we live with fear and insecurity in the system that we live in, because the colonized purposefully made us unable to be self-sustainable and to rely on the system, right? For food, for clothing, for shelter, for basic needs, when we used to be able to take care of ourselves within our family unit or within our community. And so we've been separated from that, focused on survival. And with that focus on survival, we often isolate ourselves, right? I was talking to a friend last week, and we were going to meet up and have drinks and food. And my friend said, "Oh, I'm just so overwhelmed. I feel like I can't go." And I was like, wow, I was really feeling the same thing. But I had this moment of realization that that's what the system wants, right? The system wants us to stay at home, kind of looking for dopamine hits and various forms of addiction, where whether we're shopping online, we're on social media, right? Whatever way we anesthetize ourselves, right? Whatever way we choose to numb out, right? And oftentimes they are making money off of those spaces, right? We know social media specifically with the ads and things, right? But I was like, yeah, that's what they want us to do. Let's go, because that's resistance. Let's be in community. Let's be with our friends. Let's celebrate life with good food and good drinks, and create that space for ourselves. I think a lot of it too is I'm starting to think about a lot of the privilege that I have. Although we come from various different forms of privilege, what does that look like? And I was consistently watching the news and watching all of the things, because I said that I was thinking that someone that looks like me needs to be the person that is kind of always aware, always on guard, and kind of always paying attention, right? But even within that space, if I'm going to be a conscious global citizen, I still need to have what Audre Lorde calls radical self-care, right? We still need to maintain this. And I was kind of lost in an imbalance on how to navigate that space, until I spoke with another friend who said that we work in the space with capoeira, which capoeira is an Afro-Brazilian martial art that was created by people that were once enslaved in order to practice and devise a way to fight for their freedom. And so they incorporated kicks and movements to fight against people that had weapons at the time, to succeed and obtain their freedom. So it is a very serious, powerful space that martial art occupies. And one of the things that we often talk about in capoeira is we use the word play, right? And we think about this creating our flow state in that playful space, and to even remember that that were once enslaved created space around that. Being from New Orleans, I also know a little bit about the voodoo community and their ritual practice and their space, and how that ritual space created healing from trauma. And so capoeira did just that. We have musical instruments where we play music, songs that we sing, and the movement in and of itself. And she said, today in class, I just want to play and create joy. And in thinking historically, that set off a light that, like, even people with various degrees of privilege, but even those without, still need to find joy as a form of resistance. So I started thinking a lot about that. And then I also had a conversation with another friend last night that talked about seeking clarity, being lucid, and being conscious. And we're not able to be conscious citizens and individuals and able to have agency and take action in the culture that we live in if we're not conscious, aware, and if we're not grounded. They're creating systems of chaos around us today, where every day we wake up, right, with something else kind of thrown at us to throw off our nervous system, to throw off our concentration, and to throw off our mission and purpose and our day. And so it's all really done on purpose. And so they want us exhausted, distracted, and discouraged, right? So it's really important to think about how to protect your mind, guard your peace, and move with purpose. And this is what I've been trying to do the last couple of days. So kind of continuing to stay aware, but in those spaces, thinking about joy as resistance and doing things that bring me joy every day as a form of resistance, whether that's being in my community, going to see music shows, dancing with friends, painting, creating art, right? Creating this content for you brings me joy also. Talking to people about important issues, but not letting it pull us down the spiral, right? If we need to, taking those pauses, right? Because rest also is a form of resistance. And then kind of creating that space of joy, and then thinking about how that joy can be brought to our communities to support different members of our community. I know I talk a lot about breath work as well, but sometimes when we feel that we are kind of completely out of control, the one thing that we can control is the ability to take a deep breath in. And when we do, that calms our nervous system. And just thinking about art and creativity, another thing that Frantz Fanon discusses is, he says when the French colonized Algeria, that the first people to be arrested were the artists, the storytellers, and the musicians, right? Those that are maintaining culture, maintaining community, and maintaining creative freedom. And the reason that they were arrested first is because if you're able to create in that flow state, you are free in that moment. And those who are able to feel senses of freedom are able to be a part of the resistance in those open spaces of freedom and of creativity. So I invite you this week or today to just do small things each day that bring you joy, right? It might be just taking a pause, and instead of sitting at your desk, taking your coffee outside, right? And sitting outside, listening to the birds. There was actually a study in Nature that the bird song actually also calms your nervous system, because birds only sing when it's safe outside. So when there's not a storm coming or strong winds, they sing when nature's calm. So humans have learned that in our evolution. So that's something else that calms us. So maybe take your coffee outside taking small walks, like if you're able to have a break during the day, take a small walk to move your body, because movement is also resistance. Art is resistance. If you're able to create, write, journal, sit with yourself, reflect with yourself. I think that journaling space is also extremely important. So just remember, this week, joy is resistance.